Apart from the textual evidence, archaeological evidence has also been put forward in support of anti-Buddhist actions of Pushyamitra and the other kings of the Śuṅga dynasty. For instance, John Marshall has pointed out that there is evidence of vandalization at the Sanchi Stupa and also to the Buddhist establishments at Takshila during the 2nd century BCE. Similarly, the destruction and burning of the great monastery at Ghosit Aram at Koshambi in the 2nd century BCE is also attributed to the Śuṅgas. Further, it has been alleged that although archaeological evidence is meager in this regard, it seems likely that the Deokothar Stupa was destroyed as a result of Pushyamitra Śuṅga's fanaticism. Many Indologists, including H.C. Raichaudhuri, R.C. Mitra, Etienne Lamotte, K.P. Jaiswal, R.S. Tripathi, Romila Thapar, and Devahuti, have expressed skepticism about the truthfulness of the Buddhist legends regarding the persecution of Buddhism by Pushyamitra Śuṅga. Raichaudhuri, for example, points out that the ban on animal sacrifices did not necessarily entail antagonism towards the Brahmins for the simple reason that the Brahmanical literature itself stresses ahimsa and mentions the futility of laying great stress on sacrifices alone. Ashoka did not ban only those animals which were sacrificed in yajnas, but even others. Thus, the ban was not exactly on those animals which were sacrificed. It has been suggested that though Śuṅga kings, particularly Pushyamitra, may have been staunch adherents of orthodox Brahmanism, they do not appear to have been as intolerant as some Buddhist texts have shown them to be. Apropos the Shudra origin of the Mauryas, apart from the fact that the Mauryas are mentioned as Kshatriyas in the Divyavdan, Raichaudhuri has pointed out that the Purana statement that all kings succeeding Mahapadmanand will be of Shudra origin implies that Nanda kings after Mahapadam were Shudras and not the Mauryas, because if it referred to succeeding dynasties, then even the Śuṅgas and the Kanvas would have to be listed as Shudras. In fact, not only that some of the Dhamma Mahamatas were concerned specifically with safeguarding the rights and welfare of the Brahmins, but some of the Mauryan kings themselves were also followers of Brahmanism. For instance, as mentioned in the Rajtarangani, Jalok was not only a zealous Shaiva and an open supporter of Brahmanism, but he was also quite unfriendly towards Buddhism. R.C. Mitra too feels that the tales of persecution by Pushyamitra as recorded in the Divyavdan and by Tarnath bear marks of evident absurdity. Further, as pointed out by Etienne Lamotte, to quote him, the only point ever over which the sources concur to the destruction of the Kukut Aram of Patliputra in the east. If there was an encounter between Pushyamitra and the Yaksh Damtra Nivasin and Krimish, it is not known exactly where it took place. At Sthul Koshtak, in the Swat Valley, at Dakshina Vihar, on the heights above Rajgraha, or in Avanti at gates of Kashmir, or in Jalandhar. As for the death of Pushyamitra, it is in turn located under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya on the shores of the Southern Ocean or somewhere in the north. To judge from the documents, Pushyamitra must be acquitted through lack of proof, unquote. Agreeing with Lamotte, Devahuti also feels that the account of Pushyamitra's sudden destruction with all his army after his promulgation at Shakal of a law promising dinaras for the heads of Buddhist monks slain by his subjects is manifestly false. As suggested by Romila Thapar, Shastri's contention that Ashoka was powerful enough to keep the Brahmans under control, but after him a conflict began between his successors and the Brahmans, which only ended when Pushyamitra assumed power, and that Pushyamitra's action was the manifestation of a great Brahmanical revolution, is also indefensible. After all, Ashoka's frequent exhortations in his edicts for showing due respect to Brahmans and Shramans hardly point to his being anti-Brahmanical in outlook. Since the Mauryan Empire had shrunk considerably and the kings of the later period were hardly in a position to defend themselves, it did not need a revolution, according to Romila Thapar, to depose Brihadratha. The fact that he was assassinated while he was reviewing the army does not indicate towards a great revolution. On the contrary, it points rather strongly to a palace coup d'etat which took place because by the time the organization of the state had sunk so low that subordinate officials were happy to work under anyone who could give them assurance of a more competent administration. Moreover, had it been a great Brahmanical revolution, Pushyamitra would have received the assistance of other neighboring kings, such as the descendants of Subhagsen from the northwest. The testimony of the Buddhist legends also appears doubtful on various other counts. The earliest of the texts that mention these legends are chronologically far removed from the Śuṅgas. The traditional narrative in the Divyavdan, for instance, can at the earliest be dated to 2 centuries after Pushyamitra's death. It is more likely that the Divyavdan legend is a Buddhist version of Pushyamitra's attack on the Mauryas and reflects the fact that with the declining influence of Buddhism at the Śuṅga imperial court, the Buddhist monuments and institutions would naturally receive less royal attention. Moreover, the source itself in this instance being Buddhist, it would naturally exaggerate the wickedness of anti-Buddhists. Further, dinara coins were not prevalent at the time of the Śuṅgas. The earliest period during which these coins came into circulation in India was the 1st century of the Common Era. Most interestingly, this legend of persecution in which a dinara is offered as an award for the head of a monk is first related in the Ashokavdan in connection with the persecution of the Jainas and the Ajivikas by Ashoka and most clearly appears to be a fabrication.